Hello and welcome everybody to Tabletop Architect. Today I'll be taking on the massive job of painting my Crossroad Tavern. Alright, step 1 as always is painting it black. I like to use a mixture of 50-50 black acrylic paint and PVA. I find it works just as well as Mod Podge and it's much less expensive. And if you're wondering, is that idiot covering the black base coat with white? Then you are correct. I had only decided to try for a lighter mortar between the stones after putting on the black base coat, and for that effect I actually needed a white base. So, tip of the day, plan your painting because I needed 2 thick coats before I had it white enough again. Would you look at that, I'm painting the wood elements in their base color brown. I used the burnt umber for this, which I mixed with a little bit of white so that it would turn out a bit lighter. Now with all the base colors on, we can finally start making it look realistic. So let's start layering. For the stonework, I started with a very light self-made wash made of acrylic black and a drop of burnt umber. Once that had dried, I added some dabs of blue, just putting them in random spots. This will barely be visible in the end, yet it gives the stonework a nice color depth. With the blue on, the real tedious work can begin. Remember that wash I applied earlier? Well, now I add it again, but this time only sticking to the stones that jut outward, avoiding the mortar in between. I had to go over the stones about 3 times before I got the color I wanted and was able to move on to the next step, but at this point it already looks kinda nice. To add some more color, I went over it with a wash made of burnt sienna, after which I covered it all in another black wash to blend it all together. I finished up with a quick dry brush using a broken white. Next was the stonework in the interior, where I started with a black wash to highlight the individual stones. After the wash had dried, I added some color to some of the stones. I used a burnt sienna, an olive green, a darker grey and a lighter grey to create some color differences. I finished it all up with a simple dry brush to blend it all together. After all the stonework was done, it was time to move on to the woodwork. I started by staining everything with a yellow ochre, which dries up nicely, blending well with the dark brown underneath, making the wood look old and weathered. To apply this, just basically see it as a very rough dry brush. So when I got to the staining of the roof, I found that I really liked the colors, so I applied it a bit heavier. I didn't completely cover the shingles to maintain that weathered look, making it seem like the shingles had gathered dirt and lost a bit of their paint over the years. When the yellow ochre had dried, I added a dark brown wash all over the wood to make the grain darker and blend the colors a bit more. You can simply apply this all over, don't even be afraid to hit some of the stone, it might actually blend the wood and the stone a little bit together, which can have a nice effect. Also, If you are afraid that your stain is a bit too dark, then apply a lighter wash first and maybe a second wash again if it did turn out too light. For the wood in the interior, it was mostly a rinse and repeat with the yellow ochre staining. I did go a bit less heavy on it, since the interior isn't subject to as much weathering as the exterior would be. When the staining was all done and dry, I applied the dark brown wash to the floor, creating a subtle difference between it and the walls. I then dry brushed the interior wood with a broken white, applying it heavier on the walls than on the floor, making them seem lighter and so furthering this subtle contrast. I wanted some of the wall elements to pop, and to do that I once more applied a dark brown wash to the columns, beams and window frames, turning them a shade darker. As you may have already seen, I did some green weather staining, applying this wash made with an olive green everywhere moss or algae might gather and grow. One of the last things I painted was the plaster. I doubted long about which technique to use, but in the end I decided on starting dark and going slowly lighter on top, beginning with a light brown. The brown I made lighter by adding some white, which I then dry brushed onto the plaster. I kept repeating this step until I ended with a broken white. I have to say that of all the techniques I've tried, this one is definitely my favorite. When all the painting was done, I added some final details in the form of green vines climbing up against the lower walls. If you want to know how these were made, then leave a comment and I might do a separate video on it. And that is it, the Crossroad Tavern all painted and done. I hope you liked this video. If you did, leave a like down below. I plan on making much more detailed videos like this from start to finish, so if you're interested in that, give me a follow on any of my socials to see when they go up. And consider supporting me on Patreon so I can make even more videos like this. For now, cheers and see you next time.